On this week's episode, Lightyear blasts off to infinity and beyond. Will Spiderhead sting viewers on Netflix? And how mad is Melinda at Xbox? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, because subscribe is always a good thing. Subscribing is always a good thing. Of course, like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, where we are the #1 tabletop RPG streamer out there on Facebook /meta/whatever it wants to call itself this week. Plus, also as well, you can catch us at popculturecosmos.com, and we are the #1 place to go for the latest news and trends in pop culture right there on Facebook at Pop Culture Cosmos as well. If you can support all that, plus our awesome things that we do right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, including Vampires and Vitae, including Wizards and Wine, and so much more. And if you can support all that, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend on the way back. Once again, that she is the mastermind behind Vampires and Vitae, Wizards and Wine, and all the things that she does as part of the #1 tabletop RPG streaming crew, including Monday's Demolition Force for the Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. It is my good friend, and a very angry one at that. It is Melinda Barkhouse Ross. I know that laugh didn't actually prove that she's mad, but my gosh, I will be pushing those buttons here quite soon.
Man, do you need to push those buttons though? I mean,
Oh, yes. It makes for good you know what? You are in the business of
oh, it's
radio
true.
for over
Yeah,
20 years. How many
yeah.
times off air were you told little arguments here and there or angry tones here and there spices up the ratings?
Well, let me tell you, there were a few very colorful arguments that eventually made their way on like on air, and then those conversations were always the ones that people would call and ask about, or you'd see people out in public and they would ask you about those. So it is definitely the stuff that sticks with you, that's for sure.
Well, you know, the other main show I do as far as on podcasts outlets everywhere is the Lakers Fast Break. And seemingly, when we have the arguments, the loud arguments,
Yeah.
the names drop, the bad words drop, etc., 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 that seems to get most everybody's dander up and most viewers and the most watches, listens, etc., etc. So, you know, on this show, though, we do that nice style of communication. Josh and I for years, now you and I for years, I'm sorry to say, by the way, for years, that great line of communication going. And for whatever it's worth, it's still been a great ride. And I continue to go ahead and say, you know what, we'll try to keep this argument free as best we can. How about
Yeah,
that?
I mean, if anybody's going to argue with anybody, I'm probably going to end up arguing with myself.
Well, you
That's
could
just
argue with
how it goes.
Xbox. You
Yeah.
said get that protest sign ready and get ready to head up to Washington
Yeah,
because
I have about 3 drafts of a very strongly worded email that
okay,
I'm getting
fair
ready
enough
to send.
indeed.
Yeah.
But before we talk about all the great things on the show, including Lightyear hitting the box office around the world, we'll talk about that coming up in a bit for Pixar's latest feature film, which is actually for the first time in years heading back to the big screen because the last 3 Pixar outings were straight to Disney Plus. So we'll talk about that coming up. Before we even talk about the latest hit on Netflix by none other than Chris Hemsworth, Spiderhead. Before we talk about the latest episodes of Miss Marvel and Obi-Wan Kenobi, before we talk about the latest scandal at WWE, before we talk about Final Fantasy whatever, because seemingly Final Fantasy, whatever you want to add on to it as far as the name is concerned, that we got to talk about as well. We first are going to talk about the thing that might make you angry this week, and that
Oh,
is what was announced at the recent Xbox showcase, which was a great demo for Diablo 4. Now, first you thought, oh, Gerald, yeah, it looks good. Diablo Immortal, I'll download it. No, I was saying, Melinda, this is not Diablo Immortal, the free to play game, which you can get already right now. This is Diablo 4, the
uh-huh.
full fledged console game slash PC game coming out next year to Xbox Games Pass for the Xbox and PC. No PlayStation involved there, and it looks like it's going to stay far away from there. So I told Josh on the air, I said, I can't wait to hear her thoughts as the Diablo queen that you are
Oh
on
man.
Diablo 4, which actually looks really good. And I'm actually really looking very much into it because it reminded me a lot of Gauntlet with the 4-player co op involved in it.
Sure. Yep.
So I want to hear your thoughts on Diablo 4 coming to PC and Xbox and no PlayStation.
Man. Okay, so
By the way, this is something we talked about a couple months ago, and I thought that would have happened.
yeah. Good on you for being right, I guess.
Well, that was because of the purchase. You don't purchase that type of company with Activision Blizzard and say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and just keep on doing non-exclusives.
I disagree. I think that doing non-exclusives is a great way to make sure you make all the money in the world. But I digress.
That big sigh was just like, she's got her protest letters ready, by the way.
I do, I do. No, so it's interesting that that was just announced because it was about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now. I discovered that there are 2 players in Wizards and Wine who have never played Diablo 3.
Mm.
So, all of us on our PlayStations are now playing Diablo 3 together and having an absolute blast. The bottom line, it
Mm.
really, Gerald, it comes down to this. I'm not going to buy a different, like, I'm not going to buy a whole new console just to be able to play one game, even though I love it as much as I do. I just cannot justify dropping that much money
But you'll
on.
be able to play it on your PC.
Yeah, but this isn't for gaming. This is, I mean, it is for gaming, just not for that kind of gaming. It's really, this computer is all about the podcasts and the streams that we do and making sure that it has enough memory and RAM and extra drives that it needs to make sure that it's accomplishing, the things that we needed to do for this stuff. I can't just suddenly start loading video games on it because I've sit in this room at this computer enough. I don't need more.
Not even Diablo 4?
Not I just can't. No, I don't want to.
I
I
mean,
don't
you
want.
won't even have to get Xbox Games Pass. Most likely, they'll sell a standalone version for the requisite $50, $60, $70, and you'll be able to go from there.
Yeah, but you still need the Xbox.
No, or play. I'm talking about PC. You'll be able to
Oh,
buy.
well, yeah.
I'm
Still,
sure you'll be able to go on Steam and buy it separately. You won't need the Games Pass for. You'll just be able.
yeah. I
Although
don't know.
Josh was suggesting maybe if you have a Samsung TV, because Samsung TV will soon, or if it doesn't have it already, the ability to go ahead and have Xbox Games Pass if you wanted to do that. So
Yeah,
just
but
as
they
a
also eavesdrop on all of your business.
well, they
Those
all do
Samsung
that.
TVs, don't
Well, I
they?
love. I
It
don't
was the
know if they.
Samsungs, right?
Yeah, it was a Samsung's, I believe, but I
Yeah.
love my Samsung. I got a Samsung over the holidays. It is beautiful. It's gorgeous. I'm not going to say too much about it. I love it. I love my
You're
Samsung.
just very happy about it. I get it. I
It's
understand.
really cool. It's really cool.
Um, yeah, no, I think it's obviously exactly what Xbox needed to do was make Diablo exclusive. Barf.
I like that extra barf on the side. I mean, it's something what they do. They had a showcase because PlayStation with its state of play, they showcased a lot of their consoles exclusives. At least for many of them, like Final Fantasy. At some point in time, they may go to Xbox, but it will be a year, 2 years before they go to that.
Right.
And with Street Fighter 6, that's going to be on console exclusive on PlayStation initially. So Xbox has to do something in return to volley, serve right back there to you. So they get Starfield, that's coming exclusively to the Xbox
Yeah.
and PC. Same thing with Diablo 4. I cannot blame it. It's the console wars are going to continue to go because again, each side is invested in their own consoles, and somewhere Nintendo's just laughing at each of them, saying, "Hey, our Switch keeps selling year after year
Yeah,
after year."
right. Did they just announce a new Switch as well?
Well, they had a new Switch that they dropped was last year that had a little bit better resolution, but they've actually the current one that you can get now they dropped recently in price about $40. So I think it's
Oh,
two
okay. Maybe
fifty
that's what it
nine
is.
ninety nine, which is still a good price, a good value. Obviously, if you haven't got it yet, but it is now well over 100 million sold. So it is on its way to passing the PlayStation 4 at some point in time in
Right.
the next 2-3 years. As I guess if you still consider it part of this generation or part of that generation, excuse me, then it would probably be the winner of all three between that and the Xbox One. But I think at this point in time, Nintendo gets by on what it needs to. It just doesn't have to go ahead and try and see if it has better horsepower, it has this or has that, like PlayStation and Xbox does. It does a great job on its own, but with the Xbox and PlayStation, it's all about the exclusives. That's the only reason why you want to get it. We talked about the fact that Xbox Games Pass has a better value, I think, because it's willing to go ahead and commit to day one
Right.
exclusives as
Yeah.
opposed to PlayStation, which waits a year or 2 years before they'll drop that on those their new vaunted PlayStation, access that they're going to be PlayStation Plus
Yeah.
access that they're going to offer. So it's an interesting tit for tat between these console makers, but Diablo 4, I mean, you could just read the tea leaves. Once they purchased Bethesda, once they purchased Blizzard, once they purchased Activision, once they purchased all these titles, they're going to pick and choose which ones they want going out on all consoles and which games that they want going exclusive to try and entice you. Starfield seemed like a no-brainer. Diablo 4 seemed to me like a no-brainer. The question comes when not this year's Call of Duty with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, because that's still going to come to multi-platform. The question comes down the line, will everything that Xbox has purchased go to a console exclusive? I don't think that they will. I think there's still like Call of Duty that they're going to go ahead and continue to sell on a multi-platform basis. But yes, the decisions you're seeing now are the ramifications of all those acquisitions both companies have made.
Yeah, but why would you not make Call of Duty exclusive? Like a
When you
serious,
talk
like
about
genuine question.
that's too much money. I mean, for instance, Call of Duty Vanguard, which actually sold less than its predecessor, still was the number one title of the year, according to the MPD, for the United States. It's still the number one seller, whatever Call of Duty is released that year. Each and every year it comes out, no matter how much we talk about Call of Duty declining sales and
Right.
Call of Duty's on the way out, people are liking Call of Duty Warzone, whatever, yada yada. It's still the number one selling each and every year. So, as you talk about, why would you give up the money on being on PlayStation? Obviously, Xbox is willing to go ahead and push Xbox Games Pass by sacrificing Starfield and Diablo 4 sales on PlayStation, but not as far as doing a Call of Duty. Now, if they did Call of Duty, on exclusive with the next version of Call of Duty, not this year's version, but the next Call of Duty.
Right.
Because remember, the sale hasn't gone through yet officially for Activision Blizzard. So that's also something to keep in mind as well. That won't go through until next year if all goes well. But if that's the case, the next iteration of Call of Duty, if that goes console platform, then I'll be proven wrong. But I just think there'll be too much money left on the table.
Yeah.
I just think there's a point.
Sure. So what I'm hearing here, Gerald, is I need to fall in love with a better, more popular, more in demand game than what I have chosen to fall in love with and became very good at. Um,
Why?
and well, because then I won't have to worry about it being taken away from me, like I am a bad child who ate a crack or no, I ate a cookie before dinner.
Okay, fair
That's what
enough.
it feels like. I feel like I'm being punished, like I've done something naughty, and I have not. All I have done is love Diablo, and now I can't have it. It's very upsetting.
If you decide to, though, maybe get a spare PC, just a cheap, little, inexpensive PC. Although the cheap and inexpensive is really hard to say these days. But
Yeah, right?
a PC that you could set aside for this. I mean, you've got until next summer at the very least, because they talked about it only being like 12 months away. So I don't. I still see it coming out at the maybe March, April, May at the earliest, but most likely, as video games always get delayed, probably not until sometime later next year.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess for now, I'm just going to take my my group of girls, and we will continue to play through Diablo 3 and on Diablo 4 for now, I guess.
All right. Well, if you change your mind on Diablo
Yeah.
4, four
Mm.
player co op,
It's so
I'm in.
upsetting. I want it
I'm
so
in.
I want it so badly. It's not fair.
Well, if I get it and then I stream it, you're really going to send me some hate mail indeed.
There will be a strongly worded anonymous email, and it will say, "Definitely not from Melinda."
P.S. I kicked Robbie for cheering. So,
Yeah,
so exactly. For cheering Gerald on. So there you go. But yes. Yes, but it is Diablo 4, and
yeah.
it is coming to PC and Xbox sometime next year. We want to hear your thoughts. If you're as mad as Melinda on Diablo 4, please let us know. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, now we get into the nitty gritty for this weekend, and obviously, the first main topic for this weekend is Lightyear, a return to the theaters for Pixar. And I can just tell you, from what I know of the Pixar studio, they're really elated that they have a movie that's going back out in theaters. It's
Yeah, I
expected to
bet.
do in between 70 to 80 million. I can tell you my source inside Pixar is extremely happy at this point about the move to or back to the theaters, that they thought Lightyear was worthy of being a theatrical release. And again, it could very well take the top spot here domestically and worldwide, with about 140 million expected worldwide and about 70 to 80 million. Depends on how far the fall is for the second week of Jurassic World Dominion. So I want to hear your thoughts on Lightyear. This brings back to the theaters Pixar, but again, they've been not. It's not that they've had a bad run. Luca, Soul was a really good movie, and of course, Turning Red. You and I were just saying
Yeah, blown away by
tremendous
it.
things about. Yeah, we were just blown away by Turning Red.
Yeah.
Looking back in hindsight, I'm probably going to say it was a good move for Disney to go ahead and send those movies to Disney Plus, because with the lack of content at times,
Yeah.
although I got proven wrong this week when I found out that the Rescue Rangers actually is done really, really well on Disney Plus. But outside of that, there's been a lack of content. So the Pixar movies have really been very much needed in the growth of Disney Plus. So I want to hear your thoughts. Was this a good move for Disney, now that they're returning back to theaters, to have those movies, Luca, Soul, and Turning Red, go straight to Disney Plus, and now finally returning to the theaters with Chris Evans as Lightyear?
I really think that Turning Red was on the cusp. I think that Turning Red could have gone to theaters,
I
and
agree.
I think that it would have done very well because and I know that we were just coming at the end of the Book of Slobafet, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we were just at the end of that, and we were just at the beginning of that giant gap before, the next Star Wars, thing hit, Disney
Yeah.
Plus. So, excuse me. Um, yeah, it was really on the cusp, I think, of for Turning Red, and it's a little bit of a bummer because it also would have been incredibly cool for those audiences to go and see Turning Red in theaters, and then I would have been interesting to hear the conversations between moms and daughters and
Yeah.
sisters and friends and things like that as they were leaving the theater. I think there might have been like a communal experience that was missed with Turning Red. But I was also at the same time very glad that it didn't go to movie theaters because, well, I got to stay at home in my sloppy clothes and I didn't have to brush my hair.
Which is, I guess, very important as well. I mean,
It is.
millions of people got to watch it at home, and not comb their hair while doing
Yeah.
so. But it was a big hit for Disney Plus. There's no disputing that. Again, I think that was the right move, although they were very upset, from what I could gather, at Pixar for not releasing it. I think they were under the inference that it was going to be released into theaters, and then, from what I remember, they switched it kind of not last minute, but they switched it not too much in advance for straight to Disney Plus. So I know that they weren't thrilled about that, but it is now Lightyear, and this, I guess, imagining of how the Buzz Lightyear would have been created in a normal sense, but it's actually a prequel that's been made years after the Toy Story saga has concluded. And it's just seemingly to me a good story so far from what I'm seeing. It's got good numbers, decent numbers. 83%, excuse me, 80% on Rotten Tomatoes is the score. Even though the Metacritic score is around 60-ish, it's not great, but it seems like it's getting like okay. A lot of people saying it's okay, which I think is a good start, but it's not going to be one considered, I don't think, one of Pixar's best. But to me, I think it's just great having that feeling that Pixar can be a theatrical movie company once again, because I think in their own minds they started to doubt themselves. I'm just getting this inference that they were starting to doubt themselves if Disney would ever have the face in putting their one of their really good films over the box office once again.
Yeah, and I think that doing it with Lightyear and, having the Toy Story machine behind, um, sorry, I've lost my
But,
train of thought.
but it's behind
Uh,
Lightyear. It's behind this whole thing behind.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it kind of makes sense that this is the Pixar film that, is the one that it has been shown to go ahead and, make it into theaters. Sorry,
yeah.
lost my train of thought completely.
No worries, no worries, because you're right, because it's got that momentum from, like you said, it got the rub from Toy Story. Lightyear is a very familiar name that's been harkened now for over 20 years when you consider the first one when it came out so long ago and how it evolved into that. I mean, Buzz Lightyear is now really a part of this as far as this whole Toy Story, Pixar, whole gambit. Because Buzz Lightyear has been he had actually a afternoon television show, the
Yeah.
cartoon, and some other spin-offs. Obviously, a ride at Disneyland, and things of that nature. So Buzz Lightyear has become a household name, and to have him in theaters, at least his origin story per se, I think is really good. I think the fact that a lot of people are enjoying it or going to be enjoying it this weekend, I think tells you that Disney has faith in Pixar once again to go ahead and be a foundational piece for their theatrical films once again. So that's good news for everybody out there, I think.
Do you really think that Disney lost faith in Pixar?
I think so. I think
Do you
so.
really?
I think so. I think Turning Red was the kicker for me. I mean, Soul, I thought could have done very well in theaters. Luca, I think would not have done well in theaters. I'm not convinced Luca. Luca was an okay movie. I didn't have any problem with it,
Right.
but Luca just did not seem to me like something I think a lot of people would have gravitated toward to. And I think I don't hear many of the people talking about, or at least behind the scenes, or who gauge the numbers, about how well it did. I haven't heard that it's done tremendously well on Disney Plus. So that leads me to believe that it might not have done well out there in the years. I know Soul did well in Disney Plus originally because it came at a time that we really needed content coming to our homes. So Soul, I know, really did well. I know Turning Red did amazing numbers, and it was right there up with the very best and most popular of Netflix when it came out. So I really don't have any problems with that. In fact, I think it beat The Adam Project, which was something that was very
Sure, yeah.
vaunted, with Ryan Reynolds and all that.
Yep.
So seeing that success, I think Luca probably of the three would have been the one I thought that is the most centered for being straight to Disney Plus. The other two I think were something that I think could have done well in theaters, and I think again, as the inferences and the source I have that that's at Pixar, they were very clearly upset about Turning Red not going into the becoming a theatrical release. But again, it all worked out for the best because it became a massive hit on Disney Plus. And need I say more?
Yeah, I mean, I I would see. Here's what's funny to me is, um, the Buzz Lightyear. It doesn't really. I'm not excited about that. I'm really not, and I was way more excited about Turning Red. So, me myself as a person, as a human being, as a consumer, as a moviegoer, I would have been way more apt to see Turning Red in theater than I would be to see the Buzz Lightyear movie.
But I could see Disney just because of the association with Toy Story
Of course, yeah.
leaning towards, okay, if we're going to go ahead and release a movie from Pixar on one of these two, which whatever one we're going to pick, that's going to go theatrical and one's going to stay on Disney Plus. I think they were hedging their bets with the
Yeah.
familiarity with Toy Story.
Yeah, I guess the answer is obvious when you kind of put it that way, but which is really too bad because Turning Red is such a special movie.
Exactly. I
So,
agree. I
yeah.
agree with you so much. It's one of the year's best, in my opinion. Just been just a great film to watch and so beautiful to look at. And I'm expecting the same things with Lightyear. It seems like a very fun movie. I can't wait to catch it. But what are your thoughts out there on Lightyear? We'd love to know as it hits theaters. The other question before we head to the break that I want to ask you is the fall of Jurassic World Dominion. Do you think that Jurassic World Dominion can still stay at number one here domestically at the box office? Worldwide, I think it's going to be Lightyear, but in its second week with critical ratings and the word of mouth being a little bit better, much better in some cases than the critical rating, which was really the movie was kind of really not that well favored.
Right.
But Josh loved it, and that can mean a lot of good translation as far as word of mouth is concerned. Do you see good returns like you did with Top Gun Maverick? I don't. I personally think there's going to be an over 50% loss in the second week, but your thoughts on the second week for Jurassic World Dominion?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that one. And with that said, our tickets are for this week.
Okay.
So, that was just the way that things went last week. My gosh, another week of what the crap is going on. We didn't have a chance to make it into the movie theater, unfortunately, so we had to move our tickets. But yeah, so I don't think it's going to stay in the number one spot. I think that the people who are the diehard Jurassic folks went in the first week, and
Okay.
I just don't know that there's enough of them who are still in love enough with it
It was supposed
to.
to be the last one, but you and I
Well,
know.
yeah, no, it's not. There's the in like 5 years, there's going to be a relaunch of Jurassic Park somehow.
No, not five. Josh thinks that same way as you do. I think it's less. I think Universal is just like got to have more money because you got to remember Fast and Furious. Once they finish that two-parter, that's supposed to be the last one as well. I don't think they can stay away from that money from either of those IPs. I just don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, but yeah, I just. Oh, okay. I'm just talking out of
Can't
my
stay
butt.
away. No, no,
Yeah.
no. I was actually saying can't keep away from the money.
Oh,
The
away from
money
that's what that
away.
means.
Yes,
Oh,
keep grabbing the money. I'm grabbing for the money. Give me the money. Show me the money.
yeah,
Something like that. So,
absolutely. But
yeah.
no, I just I can't see it continuing to do huge numbers like that.
How well is Peacock doing?
Well, could be doing better. Could be doing Jurassic Park level better.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. And they could be doing Fast and Furious level better. Now, it could be easier. We talked about this before. I've theorized that maybe some series for those IPs could be on the way as far as for Peacock. It would probably be a lot easier to crash cars and a lot less cheaper than to make CG dinosaurs. So I'd say of the two, I'd probably say a Fast and Furious spin-off series would probably be more likely, but that's just me. So that's just me.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, if you wouldn't be interesting to do like an explorer kind of series with Jurassic Park and feature like a dino of the week or something?
There you go. Do do
Be
do
kind of
do
fun.
do do.
Yeah. Well,
Hosted by Melinda Barkhouse
yeah.
Ross.
I have a second email to send. Hang on.
There you go. All right.
Taking some
I'm in
notes.
the jungles of Colombia today looking for the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Found it. See you next
Yes.
week.
Oh, sorry, Gerald. Yes, I see my legs just like right in the middle of the teeth. Just and then he goes up and reaches for it. Well, it's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, so he has really short arms, can't do it. But
Yeah.
tries to use my legs as a toothpick as he's walking away. There you go. But
Nice.
nice, nice indeed. But what are your thoughts out there on Jurassic World Dominion? Have you had a chance to catch it yet? Josh has had favorable reviews. Melinda's going to go ahead and catch it in its second week. We're not sure how it's going to do. Will it have the same kind of hold that Top Gun Maverick had? Because that has been a tremendous hit for Tom Cruise as it nears $800 million. I think it's actually going to pass Doctor Strange at this point. It already has in the US as far as domestic money only. It's
Right.
already the biggest hit of the year for 2022 in the US, Top Gun Maverick. So I see good things still for that movie as well. So, what are your thoughts out there on going to the movies this weekend? Please let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, coming up next, Melinda and I are going to be talking some Spiderhead. Going ahead and see if they can go ahead and sting you on Netflix. Plus, also, we'll be talking about the latest episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Miss Marvel. Final Fantasy, just a whole bunch of Final Fantasy coming up, and the latest scandal to rock the WWE. Could this be the end of Vince McMahon as we know it? We'll talk
Woof.
about that at the back end of the show. This is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with the show. It's the PCC Multiverse. It's Melinda Barkhouse Ross and me, Gerald Glassford, coming back to you right here on the program. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and big shout out to all of our radio stations around the world that carries our wonderful show. And Melinda, I ask you before we head to our next topic,
Yeah.
and just wanted to ask you real quick, what are you up to? What evil plans do you have for your players as you go ahead and arrange so much as far as Vampires and Vitae and all the great things that you're doing for all your players out there on all your tabletop role-playing games?
Well, it's a lot. After a last minute unexpected live stream cancellation last week, there were some emergency stuff that we had to get taken care of and couldn't wait, so we had to cancel, unfortunately. We will be back at the table this coming Sunday starting at 1:30 Pacific Standard Time. And this coming Monday is our official first episode for Wizards and Wine and The Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I am almost finished editing our episode 0, like our session 0, which establishes rules and characters and all that kind of stuff.
Cheat to win.
And that will come up on Monday morning. We'll have that one available. And so I've done session 0 with both groups, the girls back in Halifax and the local group here in Vegas as well. And we have some first-time D&D players at the table and a couple with a very limited experience. So it's a really neat table. I'm really excited about it. And hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll take some time and check it out.
And where can somebody catch all this great action?
Well, always the Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, and you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Pop Culture Cosmos Twitch. You can find our Facebook page and follow us there as well to get a really good look at what we're up to and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, we've been working really hard and really kind of trying to do our best to make sure that we're keeping things as entertaining as possible.
And I believe you are doing an outstanding job. You and
Thank you.
everybody on the team, you and everybody on the crew. I want to give a big shout out to Mitch, who does a great job with his weekend games in where he's based at, in the lovely state of Hawaii. I'll just say that. But yes, great job by him running our weekend games. Plus, also as well, of course, we've got Roger with the Demolition Force trying to go ahead. I like the last one. I couldn't be there, but I was watching it on the stream, and when they say Demolition Force is going to be dying soon, like whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Fortunately, they escaped with their lives, but for how much longer, we don't know. So tune in every Monday for the Demolition Force with Roger and all the great crew that's there, and occasionally us as well. So you'll see that going on as the #1 tabletop RPG streamer. So catch all the great things that are going on. Melinda's games, Vampires and Vitae, Robbie Ross, he's going to be doing a lot of great things that are there as well. Mitch, the whole 9 yards right there at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. But for now, it is you and I talking more great pop culture. And Chris Hemsworth, he's going to be coming up next month as Thor, Love and Thunder, and all that great stuff. But first, Netflix is dropping his latest movie. Actually, something he taped. He filmed this a couple years ago during the pandemic, so it's one of those movies similar to what I thought, similar to what I saw with the Adam Project, to something within a very confined space not
Right.
too many locales, not too many individuals involved. Try to keep it at a minimum. So, and that's a very understandable during the COVID, situation. So, with that said, it was a nice payday movie, I think, for Chris Hemsworth, just like it was for Ryan Reynolds. But the question I have for you, as Spiderhead hits Netflix this weekend, is that this is a movie with him and Miles Teller are the main names in this, as they are in a prison with Chris Hemsworth as the overseer. And in order to go ahead and get a sooner release, Miles Teller as a prisoner and other prisoners have to undergo these experiments. And with Chris Hemsworth talking to you with the glasses on and just very casually just talking to you and just talking to the prisoners, just like, okay, you need to do this now, you need to do this, and gets to, this psychological things that are going on, and they're very creepy, as it were. But Chris Hemsworth's wife has or had the number one movie on Netflix recently with Interceptor, Elsa Pataki. So, what goes on in the dinner table if Chris Hemsworth movie, his latest movie, Spiderhead, doesn't reach the same kind of numbers as Elsa Pataki's movie Interceptor, which was, I think, number one for 2 weeks in a row?
I think what it will
Bragging
do,
rights.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's gonna give some folks some bragging rights, and I mean, we used to Robbie and I used to do the same kind of thing. Episode of Wizards and Wine would drop, episode of Vampires and Vitae would drop, and we would like compare numbers all the time. And
Oh, I love it. I
yeah, we
absolutely
were
love
just like super nerds about it, and if it was actually a little bit gross to be honest. But I imagine it's the same kind of thing. They've both been paid. They're both happy. They're both gorgeous. Stop.
it. Okay. So I did get some juice in there. Yeah, it's like,
Right? Yeah. I mean, y'all are fine.
okay, all right. Well, Elsa has the Fast and Furious
Uh
movies
huh.
that she could, that she's worked on that she can brag about, and Chris
Yep.
Hemsworth has that, little Marvel Cinematic Universe
Yeah. The
thing.
whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's a great comedic actor, which I'm
He
still
really
waiting
is.
for. I am still waiting for the project non-Thor, non-Taika Waititi Thor, that he could be in that will utilize his comedic strengths, because I think he's one of the most underappreciated, or I mean, I guess not very well written outside of that Thor character as far as a comedic actor is concerned, because I really think he has a lot of great instincts,
Yes.
especially when you watch the last couple Thor movies, and of course the last Thor movie, and of course what happened with the Avengers. It's just you see the potential for him to really get a nice comedy. It's just he's given the worst scripts in the world. The Men in Black reboot, that was awful. Yeah, the Ghostbusters reboot, that was not a very well loved or appreciated movie. I mean, that's, yeah. Just I wish he would get in that opportunity. If he does, I think he's going to knock it out of the park.
You know how sometimes you just get into a groove with a group of people, you know what to expect, you know what they're expecting, you know how they write, you know when it's okay to improv and throw an extra line in or take a
Mhm.
line out or whatever. I wonder if that is where Chris Hemsworth has found his comfort when it comes to the comedy stuff. Where, you have people encouraging him to do more, go further, be funnier, lean more into the himbo
At
thing
least in the Thor
seemed
thing,
to
because
happen with Thor. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Like I think that that little bit of comfort that he has with that now well-established family at this point, let's face it, they're spending so much time together. I think that that might have something to do with it. I'm sure that he's got no lack of scripts coming his way.
yeah.
And I just wonder if he has just found that charisma with that particular, group of individuals working on those movies, and he's having a hard time finding that funny outside of that group.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he can find someone that can write as well for him, like Taika Waititi
Yeah.
does for him, since Thor 2 and since the Avengers Age of Ultron and all that he was in, that really weren't best utilizing his skills. But as he said in a recent interview, and he said this before, that he was quite bored of the Thor character when it came to filming the first movie he did with Taika Waititi. And Taika Waititi just changed his opinion, changed his view on
Yeah.
how Thor could be. And now he's really excited to play the character. It comes through, it comes across, and he's very entertaining. He's totally transformed himself in an age where we were losing Robert Downey Jr. to a point where he has evolved into one of the most beloved Avengers simply because of the fact he's become so darn entertaining.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I agree with all of those words.
Well, what are your thoughts out there on Spiderhead, though? As you gonna check it out this weekend on Netflix?
Is it a horror movie? I'm sorry, I don't really know a whole
No,
lot
it's
about
a psychological thing where they're like I said, they're in I guess a futuristic style prison where they get their
it.
senses taken off by if they just do experiments. So they're sitting. It's almost like a psychological thing because he's in a room talking to them through a mic, a PA, and they're interacting. The prisoners are interacting with each other, and then as he's going to ask them to do darker and darker things that they go on. Obviously, you don't see much of that in the trailer because they want to leave
Right.
that for what's in the movie. But again, I'm going to give this some slack because this was filmed during COVID, and it does look like it's a paycheck movie for Chris Hemsworth because of the fact that it does look like it was done in the confines of a certain space. Very few locales, very few individuals actually involved in the movie. So, I'm going to give them some slack on that. But yeah, I'm definitely looking. I'm definitely thinking that will still because of his name value and the fact he's done well previously with other films on Netflix. I think this has got to hit again. I'm sorry to Elsa Pataki, but I think he'll be able to go ahead and say, you know what, I've got number one, two coming up at the dinner table in a not too distant future.
Yeah, it's a psychological thriller I can handle. A horror movie I cannot.
No, it's
Uh,
psychological. Yeah,
so yeah, okay, psychological, yeah, I can handle that.
he
I'll
was
watch
he
it.
was in the Cabin by the Lake.
Yeah,
That
never
was
watched
after
it.
Thor. Yeah. Okay. That's
Mm-mm.
it's actually a funny, very I don't know if it's gross per se, but it's very bloody. But it's
Right.
also a pretty funny, tongue in cheek type horror movie. Yeah. It's actually I know you can. You get the
Sorry.
chills right now just
I
being
do, I
saying that.
do, just
Yes. All
thinking
right.
about ugh, no, I
But
can't.
if anybody out there hasn't seen it yet, that actually likes tongue in cheek, somewhat funny horror movies, it's actually for you out there. But
Yeah.
need I digress? But what are your thoughts out there on Spiderhead as it reaches the waves of Netflix this weekend, right there out for you on your streaming service? Please let us know. Popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Before we hit the break, I wanted to share some thoughts on Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi and Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel is episode 2. Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi is episode 5. One episode left for Obi-Wan, and Miss Marvel is still just getting started. Although both are only 6 episodes, I wish Disney Plus would not throw them on the same day. I really think they're making a mistake by that. I wish they would do the Tuesday, Thursday thing.
Yep.
I really think that's probably the best way to do it, but they throw them on Wednesday together. Your thoughts on the episodes, if you've caught them already? Obi-Wan looks more and more like he's going to have another rematch with Darth Vader in the not too distant future. They kind of had a little thing on episode 3, not to
Mhm.
give away too many spoilers, but really wasn't that much of a good matchup. But I think if they're going to have a decent matchup, it's heading for episode 6. But I do want to make sure everybody knows out there, do see the performance of Moses Ingram. She is
Oh,
sensational in this
yes,
show. And I
so
will
good.
just leave it at that.
Yeah, she is so good. And, I'm the young actress playing Leia
Yeah.
is terrifying that she is that good and she's
Yeah.
that young. Terrifying. And I know a lot of people have had, a lot of issue thinking that, the Leia character is too sassy, too this, too that. Come on. Like, wasn't Princess Leia like a senator by 19 and could speak, all of the
Exactly.
languages and all of this? Yeah. Of course she would have been a precocious 10-year-old. Give me a break.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think again, Moses Ingram and the young lady who's playing Princess Leia doing a tremendous job.
So good.
They are making it a very a pretty good watch. A pretty good watch. It's not a great series for me, but it is a pretty good series. I mean, after the Book of Sloboda Fett, I think everybody decided a little pick me up is in store, and I know this. I know early on it's a little got some pacing issues as well, but after that, it's kind of picked up at a decent pace, and I really like what I've seen out of Obi-Wan Kenobi. With Miss Marvel, episode 2 was not quite as good for me as a watch as episode 1, but then again, it got into more the teenage crush, teenage things of
Right.
that nature,
Right.
like teeny movies, which I've seen, coming of age movies, which I've seen probably 10 million times too many.
Yeah.
So I think that probably kind of jaded me out a little bit. I'm not saying it was bad by any stretch. It was there,
Yeah.
but we're starting to see a little bit as far as the mystery behind her family is
Right.
concerned, and especially her great grandmother, I believe, if that's correct, or grandmother. And as far as what I like, though, as far as seeing her culture and the Pakistani culture that she's a part of with the mosques, and how she interacts on a daily basis with her friends and her family, in these type of settings. That's the part I really like to, is for because for me it's a learning experience as well.
Mhm.
But her as she's getting learning her powers from the I guess the bracelet, but I think it's a Bengal, as they call it, a Bengal that's around her wrist that she now is getting powers from. She's learning how to utilize it better. I think that's and you're starting to see the force. You're just getting to know the forces that are trying to also get a hold of that Bengal, as they say. I think it's Bengal, but anyways, it's a bracelet for everybody out there if you're not familiar with
It almost
Bengal.
looks like a really big cuff. Like if
Yeah,
you I'm trying to think of I don't know why I want to say the bracers of power, and I
a
know that
band. It's a band of some type.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know the braces of power are like 4 different things from D&D all smashed
yeah,
together, so
exactly.
I know that's
But
not accurate,
your
sorry.
thoughts on Miss Marvel? I mean, I think it's okay. Two isn't that kind of like a little squishy high school stuff, of
Yeah,
course. But
it's for a younger audience,
yeah,
and, I think it's doing, exactly what it needs to do
yeah,
to keep that
I
younger
agree.
audience, to keep their attention.
I
Um,
agree.
I think it's very good for a younger audience. For myself, it's a little bit too cotton candy, but
Yes,
that's fine also.
agreed.
I'm pass no judgment on that because, there's a time on a Thursday night at, what is it, 11:37 when that's really what you wanna do.
I agree with you. I mean, again, for us, it's there. It's cotton candy,
Yeah,
like you said. I think that's the best way to phrase it. But
yeah,
for me as well, again, I'm seeing enough good things from it, especially after the first
yeah,
episode, the second episode, again. But we'll see what happens as we continue our series with Ms. Marvel, especially with some other stuff coming up, like the Umbrella Academy and some other series that are going to take some time away from it, how it fares. But we'll see what happens. But if you have thoughts out there on Obi-Wan Kenobi as it heads into the series, possibly finale. I do like the Uncanny Valley and the CG de aging that they're trying to do with both Ian McGregor and Hayden Christensen and their little jousting that they had this week when they did when they actually did a flashback, throughout the episode as far as through their days back during the prequel movies. So
yes.
I don't know. That's kind of looking cool there. I mean, although you can see sometimes the little CG extra CG work provided there, but again, it's with both Miss Marvel and Obi Wan Kenobi. I think I'm having a good enough time, and I think I'm giving them a go. At this point, I'm giving them both a good pass.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in talking about, like, the de-aging and stuff like that, I mean, don't look too close at TikTok. All those filters move around, so
Oh my gosh, yes, yes, the deep fake begins indeed. But
oof.
what are your thoughts out there on Obi Wan Kenobi and Miss Marvel? Please let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. My friend, it's been a great episode, but before we head on out, two last things. The scandal part of the show, almost
Ooh,
like the police blotter. We almost got like a report on a police blotter every single week
right.
because something
Man.
new happens in the world of pop culture that's relating to it. I mean, Kevin Spacey back in UK getting some issues there. Jeff Hardy for All Elite Wrestling, once with the WWE,
Yeah.
going back to jail because he just can't stay away from the drink. But the worst week, possibly. Who does
It is
the
only
thing?
Thursday.
Yeah, I know. Who does the? Who has the worst week or something? Somebody does the worst week. I forget who it is, but who is having the worst week? Could be Vince McMahon, as the Wall Street Journal reported that there is, or at least there has been an investigation by the board of the WWE that there was a $3 million or carried out over installments. $3 million in hush money paid to a once paralegal for the company that started with the WWE in 2019, had an alleged affair with Vince McMahon and also John Laurinaitis, head of talent relations. Yeah, at various times during the course of the next couple of years. And I guess the $3 million is being investigated as possible hush money that was company money that could be. So that's what they're investigating right now. So it's become a kind of very touchy subject over the WWE. Now, the WWE has been no stranger to controversy. They've courted
Yeah.
controversy, especially if you watch the Dark Side of the Ring. You're going to see a lot of controversy created by the
Uh-huh.
WWE and some of its members, including Vince McMahon, and sometimes especially Vince McMahon when it comes to the steroid era, the steroid trial of the 90s. You're talking about the XFL, and now there are still lawsuits emanating from that. And yeah, it's just really seemingly not going to be able to avoid controversy at times. And some of the things that's gone, the plane ride from hell, that's still something that was talked about recently on the Dark Side of the Ring by Vice, which does a great job doing that. But your thoughts on this? I mean, I don't know yet 100% if it's going to lead to the ultimate demise of Vince McMahon. This is not like the first time he's gone down this road of controversy, but it is something that's not going to be a very rosy picture. It's not going to paint a very rosy picture for the WWE.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. So, I'm just looking at CNN.com. So they hired this woman. She was making $100,000,
Yes.
and as soon as the extra beneficial relationship, if you know what I mean, started, her salary doubled. So she was making 200,000. Um,
Okay.
she was 41 years old, and yeah, she had a time during her
Well,
employment.
and then the allegations again first started with Vince McMahon, and then it
Yeah,
led to supposedly Vince McMahon, quote unquote, passing her off. Yeah, that's a very
yeah,
derogatory return. That's a very derogatory term. Passing her off, quote unquote, to head of
like
talent
a
relations.
yeah, like a toy
Yeah,
is
like
the
a okay, quote unquote, like a toy. Okay,
yeah.
to talent relations head John Laurinaitis. Yeah, that's something that again, to me, I think could be very much something that people need to watch on. Now, they're both at television this weekend taping WWE SmackDown like nothing's gone wrong or everything is business as usual, as they like to say at the WWE. But this could be a something. This could be a problem,
It
especially again
really
if the board, as a publicly traded company, is investigating this and has been since April. I mean, it's 2 months now, so it's a very slow and winding and thorough investigation, I hope.
yeah.
But to be so specific, and when the press got a hold of this, with the Wall Street Journal getting a hold of this specifically, everybody else is fed onto it. I think this could be a big problem for the WWE,
I absolutely is going to be. And I
especially an older Vince McMahon. Not this is not the younger Vince McMahon going through the steroid trials and all that. This is
exactly, yeah.
2022. This is an older Vince McMahon.
Yeah, he's 76 now, and it might be time for him to retire, not so graciously. I have
I
a
mean, the
feeling
company's worth billions,
they are, and his daughter is still on the board with her husband,
but she had to
formerly.
take a leave of absence recently.
Oh my goodness. Well, is
Yes.
Paul Levesque, is he still there?
He had heart issues, so
Oh my
he is
goodness.
like in some semi-retirement right now, as far as is concerned. So that's
Oh
one of the
dear.
main reasons why she recently has taken a leave of absence from the company as well. So now it's being run by Nick Khan, who comes from the world of business, whatnot. He's been running as the company as a vice president, partially running a lot of the operations behind the scenes for a couple of years now. So he's been the main factors driving as far as the company to be more attractive, rumored for a possible buy, because the fact he's been a specialist at doing these type of things before for other companies, paring down departments, laying off certain individuals, laying off wrestlers, etc., etc. So he has been a spearhead of that before. So in as far as different companies are concerned, so this could even push the company further into a sale. I know that the company could get a nice price tag. This will probably, if it does, increase the expediency of that. It could be something that is very much very interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gerald, I mean, between you and I,
Okay.
right? This could be an opportunity to launch our own wrestling company.
Absolutely. Las Vegas has always been a hotbed
Yeah,
right
I
here
mean,
for you.
if the biggest guy on the board is weak, now's the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, probably 10 years ago was the time, to be completely honest. Wouldn't start today and try to take them on, but my goodness, what an opportunity for, some of the smaller, companies that have been trying to get past, what the McMahons have been up to.
Well, All Elite Wrestling is now at a point where, with the Warner Brothers TNT TBS contract that they have, has gotten them some good ratings and gotten them to be somewhat of a good competitor. They're not quite all the way there, but even in this time of turmoil, even this time of turmoil for them, even a time of when there's a lot of indecision or there's a lot of bad booking that's going on with WWE, they're still getting around $2 million, 2 million viewers for each and every show that they're doing, right around there. So be that as it may, I think they're at a very low point of their ebb right now at 2 million. So if all it takes is the next Steve Austin, all it next takes is the next undiscovered individual that they can go ahead and push, and if that's the case, that might still put them out of reach. But this could be a big problem for the WWE, and we'll go ahead and keep following it right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So keep in tune with the news that we're covering on the WWE. But your thoughts, could this be the end of Vince McMahon with his latest scandal? Please let us know. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Want to mention before we head on out, and before I mention Final Fantasy, I wanted to mention you were asking about PC games, and I wanted to make sure everybody knows with Prime Day and around the corner next month, and with the summer Steam sale around next week,
Right?
Amazon has said, okay, Steam, here goes nothing. We're going to go ahead and try and just take a little bit of a shine off your upcoming Steam summer sale,
Oh dear.
because on the 21st, starting on the 21st, they're going to release 30 games, 30 PC games that you can download for free.
Uh-oh.
Now, and these aren't, some of these aren't slackers at all. In fact, the best game that I played last year, Mass Effect's Legendary Edition, the game I love so much, is going
Surprising
to
no
be
one.
it's going to be free on this
Oh.
offer. So it starts at 21st. Just to let you know, these they're going to release little by little by little. But yes, the total is 30 games starting June 21st through Amazon Prime. They'll
Wow.
go ahead and get you hooked up as far as these Steam games for free. They're PC games. Grid Legends, excellent game. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Need for Speed Heat. Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy. Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast. Star Wars Republic Commando. Those three are blasts from the past that they brought back to go ahead and make some extra cash. So those games are all going to be free. And then they're going to have even more 25 more games. Some of them indies, some of them are actually somewhat familiar, but there's still going to be a great deal there. So that's 30 games Amazon Prime is going ahead and sending to you in advance starting the 21st. So please, if you're an Amazon account holder, please go ahead and make aware of this. I've actually put the link already in our feed for Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. So if you want to go ahead and check it out and get you started on where to go, starting on the 21st, go ahead and check it out right there at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But yeah, 30 free games, including Mass Effect Legendary Edition for free.
It's a BFD, man.
Yes, it is a BFD indeed. But before we head on out, my friend, Final Fantasy had its 25th anniversary celebration earlier today. I know that you and I were on pins and needles in regards to that. Okay, I'm not really a Final Fantasy fan per se too much, but I just get lost. To me, it reminds me so much of the Fast and Furious because they have this like timeline which goes all over the place, and then they release games. It's like Final Fantasy this, Final Fantasy that. They just throw Final Fantasy. They throw a game out there and they'll just slap a Final Fantasy label on it. Sometimes it's for the better, sometimes it's for the much worse. So the things that they did talk about that were important. Two things, obviously, recently they did talk about with the PlayStation State of Play, Final Fantasy 16
Yes.
will be coming out at the not too distant future. I believe is a 2023 release that will be on PlayStation. But today they did talk about Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2. Part 2 is Rebirth. So we had the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which came out last year to PlayStation owners.
Right.
That was, I guess, part one of a trilogy or multi-part deal. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming out next year. That's going to be part two of again, mind you, this is a remake of a game that's already been made over a decade ago. So I don't get this. This is Final Fantasy being Final Fantasy, going back in time, and there's still stuff coming out for Final Fantasy 14. And yeah, I don't know. Can you help me with this?
I think that what I wish Diablo was, Final Fantasy is.
Okay,
Okay, in terms of fan service.
I get it, but
You know,
yeah,
I really think that that's what a large majority of this is. I think it's just, people are in love with Final Fantasy VII. They want more of it. They've been playing it since it came out. So why not give them something in two parts and squeeze a little bit more money out of it?
but this is again Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is supposed to
Yeah.
be a part two, is supposed to have extra things in it, and it's supposed to
Yeah.
be
Do
deviating.
that.
Why not just make it a new game altogether?
Well, why throw out the baby with the bathwater?
All right. Okay. Got to
You know what I mean?
slap on
Like,
that Final Fantasy name, but the Final Fantasy VII name of all of the games, because the Final Fantasy VII is the most revered game of the
right.
entire series and one of the most
Yes.
revered of all time. So
Yeah.
I guess you got to do it. I guess
Exactly.
making a game that you made or remaking a game that you made over a decade ago, and
Uh-huh.
then now you're on top of that, you're making it into three parts.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're adding
That's
some new stuff in there, a couple of new little things, little something, something here, little something, something there. Money, money, money.
I'm wringing out every single dollar. Yes,
Yes.
if I'm Square Enix, every single
Yes.
Final Fantasy
Yes.
dollar. Yes, and Final Fantasy 60. I can't keep track of it. Plus, you got to remember all the handheld games. Those are your Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy this, Final Fantasy that, Final Fantasy this, that, that. It gives me a headache.
It's a
It really
lot.
does.
It
Yeah.
really is. But what a wonderful thing for somebody to, accidentally discover one day and be like, Mom, Dad, did you know about this Final Fantasy game? Next thing the giant box comes out of the closet and it's just sat down in front of you. Here's your next 7 years, kiddo.
When I
Enjoy.
was when I was running my game stores, that was the worst question to ask me. Can I buy a? Can you tell me if you have that Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
And I would just turn around and I would see the lineup of Final Fantasy games. This was 2007 to 2008. Final
Right.
Fantasy games covering half my back wall. Which one would you like?
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
There's more than one? Oh, let me tell you. Do you have 5 hours? I'll sit you down right now.
Here's the story.
Here's the story indeed. But what
Yeah.
are your thoughts out there on a part two of a remake of a game that came out several years ago in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that's coming out next year, plus Final Fantasy 16 that's coming out next year as well. All this Final Fantasy. Can you have enough? Can we ever have enough of Final Fantasy? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. At yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode talking Final Fantasy, talking all the good stuff on Disney Plus, talking Lightyear, arguing over Diablo 4. Well, we weren't arguing, but I know
Yeah,
you're
we
going to be
want
arguing
to.
with Xbox. But
Yeah.
any last
So,
thoughts
any last
before we
thoughts?
head on? Before we
Yes.
head on out,
The contest is still going on the Vampires of Vitae Facebook page. If you would like to win a set of the Alliman Tarot deck, uh, a set of the Alliman Tarot deck. Tarot cards. That's the way to say it to make sense. Currently holds the title of the most backed tarot card deck in Kickstarter history. Some of the signed decks are going for like $550 on eBay. Obviously, the ones we have aren't signed, but I did buy them with the Kickstarter. And all you have to do, there's 5 different cards, so you can have up to 5 entries. Just head over there, make some suggestions about what you think the card mechanics should be for the game. And we have the draw coming up in about 3 weeks.
where do they go?
They have Vampires and Vitae on Facebook.
And there you go, indeed. So please go ahead and be part of the fun today on Vampires and Vitae. Vampires and Vitae, indeed. So for Melinda Barkhouse Ross, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great